So today back with us is Brother Ghatikara Loo, continuing the second part of the series on Have You Come to Your Senses? So over to you, Brother Loo.
Thank you very much, Sister Amber, and thank you for your kind introduction. Very good morning, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. I'm very happy to be able to share the Dhamma with you again this morning. Okay, so before we begin with today's Dhamma talk, let us place our palms together in Anjali, and pay our highest respect and homage, to the Buddha, the Blessed One, whom through his great sacrifice and effort, he has rediscovered the path to liberation, and that has enabled us to practice the true Dhamma, as taught by the Blessed One. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, so for today's Dhamma talk, it is part 2, of the talk, which I actually began last week, and this is a continuation, from the talk, which I actually gave last week, where I actually explained, and elaborated, in great detail, in respect, of the importance of meditation and contemplation with regard to our six sense doors on six sense basis, where I actually quoted various suttas from the Pali Canon, particularly the sutta from the discourses. There's from the various suttas which I quoted, mainly from the Samyutta Nikaya, which are the connected discourses, which are actually highlighted, that the Blessed One, he actually cultivated, and practiced, contemplation of the five sense, the six sense doors, and that is the basis for him to awaken and attain full enlightenment and to become a perfectly self-awakened Buddha. And let me just share my screen just to recap, what I actually went through last week. Just as a recap, last week, I actually went through many suttas, but I just want to highlight the main gist of it, where I actually showed you this sutta from the connected discourses, which is Samyutta Nikaya 35.13, where the Blessed One, he actually described, the time before he attained his enlightenment, until he actually finally broke through to the truth, and he attained the liberation of his mind. And he actually attained Buddhahood on the night of his enlightenment, So he actually described before, when he was still a bodhisattva, how he was actually, trying to understand the intrinsic nature of existence. And if you look at this, the Buddha actually contemplated in terms of the sixth sense basis, which are actually the internal sixth sense doors, which are actually our sixth sense basis, and also the external sixth sense basis, which are primarily the form, for the eye, and then we have the smell, for the nose, and sound for the ear, and then flavor for the tongue, and then tactile sensation for the body, and also mind objects for the mind. See, the Buddha actually contemplated in terms of the gratification, the danger, and the escape, with regard to the six sense doors, and he actually contemplated, how these sense bases and sense objects, how they actually provided so much of gratification to him, and then he also contemplated in terms of danger, that essentially all these are actually non-self, because they are actually dependently arisen through causes and conditions. So he realized that there's actually nothing permanent, nothing there's no self to these gratifications. There's actually they are actually intrinsically, they don't have a self. They're ever changing, and they're actually empty, intrinsically in nature. That's how he realized the danger and also the escape, with regard to these six sense doors and six sense objects. That's why you see on the ninth of enlightenment, then when the Buddha contemplated these six sense bases and six sense objects, then you see the last part here, the knowledge and vision arose in me, See, the Buddha actually realized the truth, he actually understood the Four Noble Truths just by contemplating these six sense bases and six sense objects. And he says, unshakable is my liberation of mind. This is my last birth. Now there's no more renewed existence, which means that the Blessed One, the Bodhisattva, on the night of his enlightenment, he actually attained Buddhahood. He actually contemplated the six sense bases, the six sense doors. So we can actually see from here, the Buddha, when he was seated under the Bodhi tree, he was actually contemplating, essentially, he was actually contemplating the open awareness, the open mindfulness of these six sense bases and the objects. And he actually realized in terms of the gratification, danger, and escape. So we can see from here, this contemplation of the six sense bases, is so important, because it has actually led, the Blessed One to attain the final realization, and he became a Buddha, a perfectly self-awakened Buddha, a Samma Sambuddha, by practicing contemplation over the six sense doors. So this is something we need to take note of, and this is what the Buddha has actually taught. And if you see if you read through the Pali Canon, the Buddha time and time again actually taught, the disciples as well as lay people in terms of the importance of contemplating the six sense doors. And this is the path that has enabled the Blessed One to realize the ultimate truth. And he has become a Samma Sambuddha, by contemplating these six sense doors. So this actually underscores the importance of this, from the Pali Canon. And if you actually see from this Samyutta Nikaya 35.26 again, this also another interesting sutta about full understanding. You look at this part in yellow. The Buddha actually says, without directly knowing and fully understanding the ear, which he starts from the eye and then followed by the ear, the mind, up to the mind, which means that the six sense doors are. And whatever feeling that arises with mind contact as condition, without developing dispassion towards it and abandoning it, one is incapable of destroying suffering. You see what the Buddha says here? If you do not understand the eye, okay, starting from the eye, the paragraph above, eye, and without understanding the ear, the nose, the tongue, in terms of the body, the mind, if you do not understand these six sense doors, and whatever feelings that arise with the contact with these six sense doors, which means whatever sense object that come into contact with these six sense doors, and whatever feeling that arises, whether it's pleasant, painful, or neither pleasant or painful feeling that arises, or and if this leads to the arising of lobha, dosa, moha in your mind, you do not understand how all these actually come into play through causes and conditions, and they are actually intrinsically empty and non-self, then you cannot actually get out of samsara. That's what Buddha says. One is incapable of destroying suffering, which means you have not penetrated into the four noble truths yet, and you are not able to actually escape from samsara, which means you are still very much shackled and tied to samsara, because you do not understand the six sense doors, and also how your mind reacts to these six sense doors, the feelings, the perceptions, the volitional formations, the craving, the greed, the hatred, the delusion that arise in your mind. If you do not understand this, then you are far from nibbana. That's what the Buddha says. And here, if you look at this paragraph, and what bhikkhus is that by which directly knowing and fully understanding which, by developing this passion, you see here the last paragraph before this, it says bhikkhus, by directly knowing and fully understanding the all, by developing this passion towards it and abandoning it, one is capable of destroying suffering. Which means what the Buddha is saying, if you actually understand, if you actually fully understand and realize, the six sense doors and the six sense bases, and the suffering that arise from it, and also how they're intrinsically empty and anatta, means one is capable of destroying suffering. Because once you actually has understood you know, in completeness, what anatta, how all these that arise in your mind, you know, and how all these conditioned phenomena are actually empty, then you actually develop this passion, and you actually you have this, you feel that you develop this passion, and you actually let go of all these, that you cling so much to, because you understood essentially they're all empty, what the Buddha says, sunyata, So then the Buddha says, if you actually fully understand this, then one is capable of destroying suffering, which means if you actually understood the anatta, the non-self nature of these six sense doors, the six sense spaces, and what arise in your mind in terms of, the loba, dosa, moha, the feelings, the perceptions, all these are actually intrinsically empty, then you are capable of, of actually destroying suffering and get out of samsara. So these two suttas essentially show us how important it is in terms of understanding the sixth sense basis. And it's actually very much different from what some teachers actually teach us, that, meditation, there are some schools that actually teach us, that sixth sense doors are actually a Mara's playground. You should not actually dwell onto sixth sense doors, So whatever loba, dosa, moha that arise in you, if any object comes into your contact and you have all these defilements that arise in you, just disregard them, come back to your main object, whether it is anapanasati, whether it's breathing, or whether it's rising, falling of the abdomen, just go back to your primary object and disregard them, and then just observe how they arise, how they actually persist, and how they cease. Just see come and go, come and go, come and go. Do not actually dwell too much onto it, because six sense doors are not supposed to be a meditator's domain. You should not actually dwell onto these six sense doors, because they are Mara's playground. So if you actually look at this in terms of what these teachers have taught now, like I said before, this the reason why some teachers actually taught, that you shouldn't actually, when you meditate, you shouldn't actually dwell onto these six sense doors, mainly because it came from the earlier sutta, which I spoke to you about, which is about this tortoise, right? Remember, last week I spoke to you about the tortoise. There was this jackal, that was actually foraging for food, by a lake, and then this tortoise happened to be there. And when this tortoise saw the jackal, he started to draw in all his four limbs together with his head into the hard shell, so that the jackal wouldn't be able to have him as his meal. So then when the jackal found that this tortoise actually stayed in the shell for too long, then the jackal also got a bit tired, and he got a bit bored. He couldn't wait anymore, so he left. So the tortoise was safe. So when someone reads this sutta, he may actually understand it as this tortoise drawing in the four limbs and the head means that you should actually avoid the six sense doors, and do not actually place your mindfulness on these six sense doors, and just avoid completely. Do not see, do not hear, do not smell, do not taste, do not touch, do not think. Just leave your mind empty, and just look at your primary object. The breathing in and out. And then look at how the abdomen rises and fall. So they may form this. They may misunderstand the sutta. That this sutta on this tortoise means that you must actually avoid the six sense doors altogether. But if you read the sutta, essentially the Buddha is actually asking us, when the tortoise actually draws in the four limbs and the head, what the Buddha is actually saying here is that you must practice self-restraint. Which means whenever the object comes into play, comes into contact with the six sense doors, you must be able to, first of all, you must be mindful of it, that, okay, I see this, and because of this, this unpleasant feeling has arisen in me, or I have this defilement, has arisen in me. You must be mindful first, and you must practice self-restraint, by contemplating the non-self nature, in all these, in this all these qualities that arise in the mind, all these defilements that arise in the mind, they are intrinsically empty, anatta, and because of that, you're able to restrain yourself, you let go of it, you do not cling and you do not grasp, on this, and you do not actually react to this, by body, speech, and mind, which creates fresh karma, So because of this, you restrain yourself, you do not actually react to it, in an unwholesome manner. And because of this, you do not create fresh karma, and because of that, you're able to restrain yourself. So this is actually what the Buddha asks you to do, to restrain, to practice self-restraint, what the Buddha says, Indra Samvara, which is actually to restrain your six senses. But the Buddha is asking you to avoid the six sense doors by just concentrating on your breath and your rising and falling, and to the exclusion of all the six sense doors. So actually, if you read one of the suttas, the Buddha says, if you do that, then the blind and the deaf actually will be fully enlightened, faster than anyone, because they are actually blind and they are deaf. So if they don't see and they don't hear, definitely, they'll be enlightened, right? So the Buddha says that cannot be the case. So actually, the Buddha, if you look from the suttas, this contemplation of the six sense doors and bases, it is the very, very path and foundation that the Buddha actually attained the Samma Sambuddhahood, and because he actually realized the gratification, the danger and escape, with regard, to the six sense doors, So we need to actually be careful, be careful about this, whenever we hear anyone teaching meditation. So always refer back to the suttas in terms of what the Buddha actually teaches. And in my previous talk, I also spoke about the importance of contemplating the five aggregates, right? In terms of our form, our feelings, our perceptions, our volitional formations, and our consciousness. These five aggregates actually constitute, the mind and body. So these five aggregates, which are subject to clinging. These five aggregates must be contemplated by anyone who actually wants to get out of samsara. And you can actually see that. I briefly went through last week in terms of this sutta is from Samyutta Nikaya 2.122. It's a Silavan Sutta. It's a sutta about virtues. Here, there is this interesting conversation between this Bhante Sariputta and Bhante Maha Gotita, and they were actually talking about they will actually have this Dhamma discussion, and this Mahakotita actually asked this Bhante Sariputta, I say, Sariputta, my friend, which things should a virtuous monk attend in an appropriate way, So you see here, this Venerable Sariputta actually says there are five things we know which must be attended by anyone. If this person actually wants to attain any of the stages of enlightenment, you must actually attend and contemplate these five aggregates. You must, and how must you contemplate them? You must contemplate these five aggregates as something that is inconstant, it's a disease, it's a cancer, it's painful, affliction, it is empty, and it is not self, So you must actually contemplate the non-self nature of the five aggregates, which I actually mentioned just now. And if you're able to contemplate the non-self nature of these five aggregates, then you see what the Buddha, what the Venerable Sariputta says here. Then it is possible that a virtuous monk, attending in this way to contemplate the non-self nature of these five aggregates, he will realize the fruit of stream entry. Which means if you want to be a Sotapanna, to be a stream enterer, you must contemplate the five aggregates in terms of the non-self nature. And here, again, you see, the sutta continues. If a monk who is a stream enterer, how should he actually continue to contemplate the same thing? The Venerable Sariputta says you should continue to contemplate the five aggregates in terms of non-self, in terms of anatta. Then if that's the case, he's able to attain to become a once returner. And somebody who has attained become a Sakadagami, a once returner, he should continue, to also contemplate these five aggregates, and because of that, he will be able to realize the fruit of non-returning, which will become a non-returner, as a third stage of anagami stage of third stage of enlightenment, and the same thing, is anagami. If you want to actually be, if you want to be an arahant, how should you contemplate? Again, Brahma Sariputta says you should also contemplate the five aggregates in terms of this non-self nature. Then you become an arahant, and you are capable of becoming an arahant. So if you can see from here, the sutta itself already provides us a very, very clear path, in our spiritual practice. If you are really keen and you're really interested and really, if you put your mind to it and you have this resolution that you want to get out of samsara, first of all, you must become a stream enterer, right? Because if you become a stream enterer, can you imagine you only have up to 7 lives in the samsara, compared to the inconceivable end of samsara. The Buddha says that it's just like the soil in his fingernail compared to the great soil on earth, the suffering of a sotapanna. So, and not only that, if during this up to 7 lives, you're reborn only in the Deva realm, and also in the human realm, you actually reborn in the among families which are rich, and in high echelons, means very high ranking families, if you're a sotapanna, and and the Buddha says if you're sotapanna, then the 3 woeful planes, which means the animal realm, the Keta realm, and also the hell realm, they are actually closed, they're closed off to the sotapanna, they can never descend to the woeful planes. Can you imagine how wonderful it is? Means when the sotapanna dies, he knows for sure, he will not get into these 3 woeful planes. Only the Deva and the human realms await him, and the Deva realms also, you have, all the glory, the splendor, the power, the authority, that he actually reigns over the Deva kingdom, because why? Because he's an Arya. This Sotapanna, this Deva who is a Sotapanna, he's an Arya, and even when he's a human realm, he's reborn in very high-ranking families, very rich, and very has a lot of authority, because he's an Arya, So the benefits of becoming an Arya of this Sotapanna is so much. The Buddha says that if you become a universal monarch, like you become a king of the world of the universe, it is not even worth 1/16 of become a Sotapanna. The Buddha says you can have dominion over the whole universe, but once it's not even worth 1/16. So that's why we actually must take heed that we must contemplate these 5 aggregates. If to become a sotapanna all the way up to arahantship. So that is actually our path. And of course, I also went through with you this sutta, from Anguttara Nikaya 4.45, the numerical discourses of 4.45, where I actually spoke about this Dewa called Rohitasa. Remember this Rohitasa one night, when it was actually in the middle of a night, when there's no one, in this in this Jita's grove, in the Anathapindika's monastery, this Deva actually flew and came to see the Blessed One, in the middle of the night, and this Rohitasa, he told this Buddha, he says, before I became a Deva, right? At one time I was actually an ascetic, and this Rohitasa, as an ascetic, when he was still a human, he actually had a lot of psychic powers, because he actually developed this samadhi to a very high level. He actually developed psychic powers, and he was able to fly at very fast speed, faster than the speed of an arrow, being actually shot from a bow. Faster than that, and he was able to fly and at great distances. And this ascetic actually wanted to find a place in the universe where nobody grew old and nobody died. He says, where can I find this place where nobody grows old, and I can be happy forever, it's an everlasting happiness in a heaven or something, where can I find such a place in heaven? Then this ascetic actually flew for long distances in the universe, stopped by only to rest and to urinate and to defecate. Then he continued flying, but he could still not find this place where nobody grew old and died. And then he actually died because of that. Before he could find this place, he died. And when he died, he became a Deva. So this Rohitasa, a bit mkamwan, you know. So he actually then went to see the Buddha and I said, hey, Blessed One, I know I was like trying to find this place, but where can I find it? Then the Buddha says, Rohitasa, you know, I can tell you for sure there is no such place in the universe where nobody grows old and nobody dies, you know. But you see, this place where nobody grows old and nobody dies is just right within you, you know, within this fathom long body, with this 6 foot long body. Actually, Nibbana is found within you, you know. And what the Buddha means by this is that if you contemplate the 5 aggregates within you, you know, as anicca, dukkha, and anatta, then you actually realized Nibbana. You do, and you know, and because of that, it is deathless, right? Because you do not get reborn again. And if you don't get born, you don't die. And it is a deathless place where nobody grows old and nobody dies, right? Because if there's no birth, there's no aging, there's no death. So that's why, you know, the Buddha says you need to contemplate this 5 aggregates within this fathom long body. You know, fathom long means 6 foot long, you know. So actually, Nibbana is found within you. Why do you have to travel all the way so far, such long distances in the universe just to look for this place where nobody grows old and dies? It's just right before your nose, you know. It is yourself, you know, that you need to contemplate, you know. So you can see here, you know, contemplating the 5 aggregates is actually something very, very important. So my question to you is, last week is, now that we know the 6 sense doors and also the 5 aggregates are important, how do you actually contemplate the 6 sense doors and the 5 aggregates? How do you actually integrate the two such that you're able to meditate and contemplate, you know, the 6 sense doors? Because when you say, how do I meditate? How do I actually contemplate the 6 sense bases? Okay, so you tell me that, you know, 6 sense, when I meditate, I need to actually be mindful of my 6 sense doors, but at the same time, I must also contemplate on the 5 aggregates, right? So how do you actually integrate these two, you know, in the meditation? So the Buddha again, the Buddha is so wonderful, you know. The Buddha has actually laid down the path that we should actually practice in order for us to realize the fruits of enlightenment. See, the Buddha actually says in Majjhima Nikaya 148 that the Buddha actually teaches about the 6 sets of 6, you know. Actually, what the Buddha highlights in this sutta, you know, it's a long sutta because it's from Majjhima Nikaya, but I'll just summarize it. The 6 sets of 6 here means that the Buddha is actually asking you to actually contemplate, you know, in terms of, firstly, in terms of the 6 sense, internal 6 sense doors, okay, which are actually your 6 sense bases, and also the 6 sense objects, whatever that come into contact with the 6 sense bases, you know. And when you have these two, then there's a consciousness, right? You know, for example, when you see an object in a form, you know, with your eye, then there's eye consciousness. When you hear something, then there's actually sound coming into contact with your ear, there's ear consciousness. So the Buddha says there is this internal, external sense objects and also the consciousness arise it. So the coming together of these three, you know, this internal, external sense base together with your consciousness, and then there is contact, you know, phassa, you know, there's contact. Then from contact itself, you actually have feelings, perceptions, you know, and also volitional formations, you know. So you have this perceptions and feelings, you know, in terms of, you know, the perceptions, the feelings, you know, that arise from this contact. You know, they may be pleasant, they may be painful, or they may be actually neither pleasant or painful. There may also be perception, because you start thinking about, you know, what you come into contact with. You know, maybe you think, oh, this is such a lovely piece of music, you know, or such a delicious plate of noodle, you know. So this perception comes into play, you know, and because of that, then you have this volitional formation. Then you start to crave for it, right? Oh, you know, I want to eat it, you know, I want to listen more of it, you know, I want to, you know, then craving arises, you know. Or if something that you come into, or for example, if you come into something that's unpleasant, somebody you don't like, or something very music you don't like, or a plate of food that you don't like, then there's aversion, right? There's dosa, you know, I don't like it, you know, I dislike it, you know. So the same thing. So the Buddha says there's this 6 sets of 6, you know. 6 sets means the 6 sets of these things, you know, in terms of your all which I described just now, you know, from the 6 sense doors, the objects, all the way to the craving, you know, and also the dislike, you know, or the aversion, you know. There are 6 things, right? You know, because when you see something, 6 things happen, and these 6 things happen in the 6 sense doors, your whatever you see, whatever you hear, whatever that you listen, whatever you taste, whatever you touch, whatever you think. So these six things, they actually inevitably, for sure, whenever the objects come into contact with the six sense doors, they trigger off this chain of six things. So that's why the Buddha says six sets of six. And the Buddha says that you must realize that, for example, if you actually feel craving for something, then you need to analyze how they arise, through causes and conditions, So by actually analyzing this, for example, you actually see something that you like, you want to eat something, you have this craving, how does a craving arise? Oh, this craving arises because of pleasant feeling. I like this plate of spaghetti, or I like this concerto music, this concerto, piece of music. Wow, it's something that's so wonderful, I like it, and this pleasant feeling arises. And how does this pleasant feeling arise? Oh, it's because of perception, I perceive this music as maybe it's composed by Beethoven or Mozart. I like classical music. And perception, it arises because it's a piece of music. And how does this perception arise? Oh, it's because of contact. And how does a contact arise? Oh, it's actually because of this ear consciousness. And how does the ear consciousness arise? Oh, it's because of ear, the music, the sound, coming into contact with my ear base, So if we could see from here, you can find that this craving itself is nothing more than just an interplay of causes and conditions. There is actually nothing intrinsically permanent about this craving. It's actually empty. If any of these conditions, that actually cause the arising for this craving to arise, then this craving itself actually, disappears and dissipates. So for example, if you actually eat something over and over again, every day you eat spaghetti, or every day you go and listen to Mozart, every day you listen to Beethoven, there'll come a time we get really so tired of it, right? It's like, I don't want to listen so much. I think it's getting a bit too much for me. I listen and eat everything the same day. You serve the same food to me every day. First day maybe I think it's delicious. Second day maybe third day maybe yes, but fourth and fifth day you start to get really tired and say, can you please serve me something else? So you find this craving actually then it changes into aversion already. Because of what? Because of all these perception changes. And because of that, the feeling also changes, and feeling changes also. Then your volitional formation, in terms of your craving, from liking it becomes disliking, becomes hatred. So you can imagine it's something that is very fluid. There's nothing permanent about it. It's there because of all this interplay of causes and conditions. It is empty. That's why the Buddha says, that you must always contemplate the six sense doors and how these six dhammas, these six qualities arise in you, and you must see how they are actually interrelated, and it's nothing but just empty. Just like a banana trunk. A banana trunk, you find that wow, you find that this banana trunk is so solid, right? But if you start to peel off the banana trunk one by one, actually you find at the end of the day it's nothing. And the trunk is empty. There's nothing there. Just like a mirage. For example, you go to a desert, right? You see you see a mirage like an oasis. But then when you get nearer and nearer, this mirage actually disappears, and there's nothing but just hot desert, right? So you find that you are being tricked, that there is this, you trick that there is this self, but actually there's non-self. And how do you penetrate this ignorance of non-self, this ignorance of self? It's actually by contemplating the six sense doors, using these six sets of things in the six sense doors. And that's how you contemplate. And if you actually contemplate these things, you are also contemplate the five aggregates already. If you contemplate these six things in the six sense doors, you already contemplate the five aggregates. You think about it. For example, you actually contemplate the six sense bases and the six sense objects, right? Actually, this is already contemplating the form, right? Then you actually then contemplate when it comes into play, there's consciousness, right? For example, the eye seeing a form, there's eye consciousness. So you're already contemplating consciousness. So you have already contemplated the form and the consciousness. Then when this thing come into play, you have contact. And when contact arises, there's actually feelings. So the Vedana also, you contemplated Vedana, right? And from feelings itself, you have perception. That, I actually like this music, you think, okay, I like this music, or I like this plate of noodles, delicious food, or salad or whatever. Oh, then, there is this perception that also has arisen, and after that, because of liking, you have craving for it, So craving for it also is a sankhara, right? It's a volitional formation. So if you actually contemplate um, these six sense doors, in terms of these six items, you are really contemplating the non-self nature of the five aggregates. So the Buddha says you are already integrating the five aggregates into the six sense doors. They are interwoven, into the six sense doors. So can you imagine how wonderful it is? The Buddha has actually taught here, and of course, if you look at these various suttas, the Buddha is the same sort of Dhamma that's being taught, to the monks, to the lay people, If you see from Majjhima Nikaya 146, there is this sutta about Nandaka, And this sutta actually happened, when the Buddha was actually living in Savatthi, in the Chitta's Grove in Anathapindika's Park. And there was this occasion where the bhikkhunis actually wanted the Buddha, to actually give a Dhamma talk, to the bhikkhunis. This Mahapajapati Gotami, the foster mother, of the Buddha, together with 500 bhikkhunis, they actually requested the Buddha, please, Bhante, give us the Dhamma talk, And the Buddha says, ask whose turn is it, to actually give a talk to bhikkhunis, because the monks actually take turns to give talks to bhikkhunis. So during that day, it was actually Nandaka's turn, this Venerable Nandaka. But this Venerable Nandaka, he was kind of reluctant to go, of course, the Buddha, the sutta didn't explain why he was reluctant, but the Buddha actually then sort of requested Nandaka, please go and give a talk. And Venerable Nandaka consented, he went. Then, of course, the next morning, after he had taken his alms, around Savatthi, and returned from his after he has taken his meal, then he went to this monastery, and then with Venerable Ananda, both of them actually went, and they actually gave a Dhamma talk, to the bhikkhunis. And then you see, this talk is in terms of questions and answers, a Q&A, not a talk like you normally give a talk, but this is Q&A. You see here what what Venerable Nandaka actually taught the bhikkhunis. He actually talked about the eye, the nose, the tongue, the body, the mind, and and are they impermanent? Are they suffering? Are they non-self? You see the same meditation, that's being taught, by this to the bhikkhunis also, and he also talk about how about the external sense objects, the form, the things you see with your eyes, the sound, the odor, the flavor, the tangibles, the mind objects, are they actually anatta or not? Are they actually anicca, dukkha, anatta? So you see here, whenever the meditation, we don't just stop at anicca. You must actually contemplate anicca, dukkha, anatta, because it's only anatta that by realizing anatta that you can actually get out of samsara. If you just contemplate only anicca alone, you haven't realized non-self, and you haven't actually realized the Four Noble Truths. So the Buddha, whenever the Buddha or the monks teach, they always teach about anicca, dukkha, anatta. And you see here, he talks about the six sense objects, external, internal. Then you see consciousness comes into the Dhamma discussion, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, all the way to the six sense doors consciousness, and this Venerable Nandaka says all these are actually anicca, dukkha, anatta as well. So you see that Venerable Nandaka gave this excellent example, of in his Dhamma talk about this oil lamp. If you actually read this sutta, he actually gave it an oil lamp. You see, when the oil lamp actually is burning, we can actually get the light from the oil lamp, right? The radiance. And why is there light from? Why is there radiance from this oil lamp? It's because of the fire, right? The fire gives out the radiance, And why is there fire? The fire is there because of the wick, and also because of the oil, and because of air, there's air, that's why they're able to burn, So if you see, if you say that this radiance, this light, that it is actually has got a self, means it exists independent of all the supporting conditions. Means the light is there without any supporting conditions. Do you think it is actually right or not? it is wrong, right? It is illogical. It's not tenable that this radiance, it's just existing by itself. That it doesn't need to have any supporting causes and conditions. But because this light, requires supporting conditions. Through causes and conditions, it actually lights up. We get the light. That's why this light is actually non-self. It's anatta, because it is subject to change. It is subject to, it is dependent on conditions, dependently a reason. So if, for example, the oil is used up. Okay, you have this plate of oil. This oil is used up, exhausted. Or, for example, the wick is burned out, and because of that, the fire extinguishes. Do you think the light is still there or not? The light cannot be there anymore. So the light itself is dependently a reason. It's anatta. So it's very much like the craving that we have, the hatred we have, the anicca, the lobha, dosa, moha. All this while, we actually are being tricked. We find that we always have this wrong understanding, the ignorance in us, the dark ignorance in us, that there's this permanent self in everything we experience. That's why we cling to it. But if you actually look at it, all these that arise in us, lobha, dosa, moha, is just like this this oil lamp, this light. It's actually dependent a reason, through causes and conditions. And if something else changes, this light actually disappears. And the whole thing is just extinguished. So there's nothing permanent to it. That's why the Buddha says it's empty. There's nothing permanent self in it. And then he gave another example of this shadow. Shadow. When you see a shadow, cast by a huge big tree by the sun, the Buddha, this Brahma Dandaka says, do you think this shadow has got a self or not? Then there's the Bhikkhuni say, no, the shadow arises because of what? Because of the sun, the sunlight, and because of the tree trunks and the foliage. That's why you see a shadow on the ground. But can you say that this shadow actually has got a self that is permanently unchanging, that it doesn't actually depend on causes and conditions for it to arise, that is not dependently a reason? Then this Bhikkhuni said, no, cannot be. It's impossible. The shadow is there because of this interplay of causes and conditions. And if any of these conditions actually change or disappear, then the shadow also disappears. So it is empty in nature. There's nothing permanent to it. So if you realize this, then the more you practice, to contemplate this in your six sense doors every day. The only thing is for you to be mindful of your six sense doors and watch your mind, how your mind reacts to it, and to restrain yourself and to contemplate. That's why samatha and vipassana is important for you to attain liberation, because you need samatha. You need to be mindful of, whatever you hear, whatever you feel, in experience, and you need to be mindful of this, so that you can calm yourself down, or you can actually do, maybe static samadhi, by watching rising and falling, or maybe you can even watch, anapanasati, as a samatha practice, But after that, you need to open up your open awareness with six sense doors and contemplate, how all these things arise through causes and conditions to actually realize a non-self nature, So these two examples, that Venerable Nandaka gave is really so wonderful, that it actually helps you to actually understand how things actually are and intrinsically non-self, and you actually contemplate the five aggregates, through the six sense doors by just contemplating this. And if you see this Majjhima Nikaya 147 again, see the Buddha actually one day he wanted to actually he actually from his psychic power, this Buddha actually knew the time was right for his son Rahula to attain enlightenment. So so one day this Buddha actually went to look for his son. After finishing his meal from the alms round, he actually went. He actually in this case, he actually asked Rahula to follow him. Sorry, he actually asked Rahula to follow him, and he actually asked them to go to this blind man's grove, to pass the day. So during when they were at this blind man's grove, this Buddha gave Rahula, a discourse on Dhamma as well. And look at this, and what the Buddha taught the Venerable Rahula, his son, the same thing: the eye, the nose, the ear, the tongue, the body and the mind, in terms of the six internal six sense doors, and also the object, in terms of, you know, what comes into contact with the sense objects, consciousness, you know, in terms of in terms of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, you know. So when you contemplate, you know, all these six sense doors in such a way, then you become disenchanted with, you know, all these sense doors, sense objects, you know, and all this craving that arises in your mind. You become disenchanted because you know that they are all empty. You know, there's nothing. Nothing intrinsically permanent. You know, there's nothing that you can hold on to forever because it keeps changing. You know, conditions change, they change as well. So if they're empty in nature, you know. So you see the same, and that's how you become dispassionate. You know, disenchanted. You feel that it's like when you grow up, you know, and you actually grow tired of the toys you used to have, right? Like last time you wanted to play maybe Lego, you know, or you're so interested in Lego, you know, you wanted to play Lego, you know, and you wanted to play all sorts of toys, you know, card games and all this. But when you grow up, you start, all these games are so juvenile, so childish, right? You know, you grow disenchanted and you grow dispassionate. You don't like it because you find that intrinsically they're nothing. You know, they're just causes and conditions interplay. Every time causes and conditions come and go, and you become so trapped in it because you feel that there's a self to it, and you react. You become angry. You become greedy. Actually, it's nothing. You know, it's empty. You know, we are just like being drawn like a dog running around the post. You know, like a leash. We're on a leash, you're going round and round, you know, barking. In the end, we are barking over nothing, you know. So that's why Buddha says you must contemplate this six sense doors, you know, through the five sense bases. You know, again, you see this Majjhima Nikaya 149. Again, the Buddha actually highlights about these six sense doors and six sense bases. You know, you see, just want to highlight to you here. You see, when you practice this six sense doors and six sense bases and contemplate on the five aggregates, you see the Buddha says here, the view of such a person is right view, you know, right intention, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, and right samadhi. You know. So which means if you practice six sense doors, you are practicing the noble eightfold path, you know. And if you practice the noble eightfold path, then you actually practice the four foundations of mindfulness, the four kinds of striving, you know, all these are the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas, the five faculties, you know, and also the seven factors of enlightenment. It's through this practice of six sense doors, you know, the Buddha says, then you're actually able to realize the direct knowledge. So if you can refer to it, you know, it's a very beautiful Sutta 149 that again the Buddha talks about the six sense doors and six sense bases. You see how wonderful the Buddha is, that everything is so consistent, you know. The meditation that the Buddha teaches essentially is open awareness, you know, it's open mindfulness. It's not just about, you know, watching your breath, you know, and seeing things come and go, you know, or, you know, you get angry, right? You know, then you see how anger comes and goes, you know, just watch, and you don't actually understand how cautious and conditions, you know, come into play, you know. So you see, okay, again, in this Majjhima Nikaya 143, this one is also a very interesting sutta. It actually talks about the just before this Anathapindika passed away. This Anathapindika is a great supporter of the Buddha, right? So one day he was already feeling very sick, you know, and he was severely ill, and he actually asked Venerable Sariputta to come and see him, you know, because, you know, he actually had great respect for Venerable Sariputta, you know, and at his deathbed, this Venerable Sariputta actually asked this Anathapindika how he was feeling and all this. And then Anathapindika says, "Oh no, you know, I don't think I can last this longer, you know, because it's already very painful, you know. My whole body was in great pain, and like being stabbed, you know." And so, and the Buddha, and this Anathapindika, you know, then actually asked Venerable Sariputta to give him a Dhamma talk in order for him to have a good death, you know. So this, you know, and you know what Venerable Sariputta taught this Anathapindika? The same thing about six sense doors and six sense bases, internal, external, how the contact, how the consciousness come into play, you know, and how feelings, perceptions, and volitions come into play, you know, how they're all empty, you know, that you should not cling to them, let go of all these at your deathbed. Just think, you know, that all these five aggregates, the six sense doors, they're nothing, they're empty, you know, nothing for you to cling to. Let go of everything. Do not cling anymore. And by this, just by this practice, Anathapindika became reborn in the Tusita heaven. He became a Deva in the Tusita heaven. And one night, on the night itself, this Anathapindika Deva actually flew and he actually appeared in this Jetavana's grove in the monastery, and he actually spoke to the Buddha, how wonderful this Dhamma talk is, by Venerable Sariputta, that he actually asked Venerable Sariputta, that please give this Dhamma talk to lay people as well, because during Buddha's time, this talk was only given to the monks, but this Anathapindika says there are many lay people with little dust in their eyes who can actually understand this, So because of this, then Venerable Sariputta agreed that going forward, he will actually give such a talk on six sense doors, six sense basis to the lay people as well. You see how wonderful this talk is. This Dhamma, but the Buddha about the six sense doors. And of course, in other suttas, the Buddha actually talks about, developing the faculties. You see here, this MN152, I just want to highlight to you, it says, there is this Brahmin by the name of Parasariya. He was actually following a different religion, a different teaching by a Brahmin called this Uttara. He was a pupil of this Brahmin called Parasariya. And this Uttara actually went to see the Buddha. And the Buddha actually asked this Uttara, how does your teacher teach the development of faculties? Then this Uttara says, Master Gautama, is when the eye sees no sight and the ear hears no sound. That's how my teacher, teaches his disciples to develop faculties. Which means that this Brahmin Parasariya, he teaches his pupils, do not see, do not listen, do not smell, do not taste, do not touch, do not think. Leave everything empty and just concentrate on your anapanasati. Just watch your breath. In, out, developing the jhana. Don't cry about other things. Don't contemplate anything. Then you know what the Buddha says? In that case, Uttara, a blind person and a deaf person will have developed faculties according to what Parasariya says. For a blind person sees no sight, with the eye, and deaf person hears no sound with the ear. So which means that the blind and the deaf will actually be arahants, right? Because they don't hear and they don't see. So which means that if you follow this teacher's teaching, then essentially they will be the arahants. But then Uttara, when he hears this, he became very silent and very dismayed. His shoulders was drooping, feeling very depressed and downcast, nothing to say. So again, the Buddha says to develop the faculties. If you read this sutta again, the Buddha actually talks about what? Again, the 6 internal and 6 external 6 sense doors, the sound, the sight, and then when you smell something, how do you react to it? Whether there's pleasant, whether there's liking, disliking, whether there's craving, whether there's aversion. You see, the Buddha again talks when you contemplate in such a manner, like what I mentioned just now, and the 5, when you aggregate, contemplate the 5 aggregates to the 6 sense doors, you are developing your faculties, like an arahant, you are developing, like a noble ones, you see how, you see, and here this sutta is very interesting. That here it says, when you have this supreme development of the faculties and noble one, that means whenever you develop this 6 sense basis, by looking at internal and external sense basis, and also you actually contemplate how the lobha, dosa, moha, they are actually non-self. If you are already, if you're already for example, like a non-trainee, you are an aseka, means you already are an arahant, that means what the Buddha says is that whatever this unwholesome states of mind, like lobha, dosa, moha, that arises, straight away they are dissipated straight away, like immediately, here it's like it says when 3 drops of water fall into an iron hot cauldron, how fast the water actually dissipates. Is that how this lobha, dosa, moha disappears. And again, the Buddha says, for somebody who is really a non-trainer, you see here, let me just go through with you how fast it is. Here it says here, you see how fast that this loba dosa moha actually dissipates from a mind of a non-trainer, which means already an arahant. It is actually like, for example, when you open and shut your eyes, how fast is it when you open and shut your eyes? It's very fast, right? So so for somebody who is really well trained, really has supreme training in this six sense doors, whenever any loba dosa moha arises in this person, this defilement disappears just like when how the speed that you open and close your eyes, and of course the Buddha gave a lot of examples like the time taken to snap your fingers. That's how fast these defilements actually disappear, because they understand non-self already at a very advanced, very high level stage. So they are able to actually uproot all these defilements at very, very fast speed. But if you are still a practicing trainee, then this loba dosa moha, they still linger in your mind, that you feel horrified, repelled, and disgusted. So here the Buddha is talking about the speed that you're able to uproot the defilements. If you're able to uproot very fast, that means you're already a non-trainee. But if you're still a trainee, then you still need to practice, but the defilements still arise in your mind, still stay in your mind. So this sutta, is very interesting. It talks about, again, about, it doesn't mean that you actually don't see, don't hear, then that means you are cultivating rightly. But in fact, the Buddha says you need to be anchor your mindfulness on the six sense doors, and also know how your mind reacts to it. And that's how you actually contemplate non-self nature. That's how you're able to let go and not grasp, and not cling to these defilements that arise in you. And that's how you're able to let go and purify yourself, and then reach different stages of enlightenment. So these six sense doors are, cannot be emphasized, enough, that as the way, to attain liberation. Again, if you look at this SN 22.83, Venerable Ananda became a Sotapanna by the same way of meditation. This he actually learned this talk from this this Dhamma, the same Dhamma about six sense doors and six sense bases from this Venerable Punya Mantani Putta. And Venerable Ananda, by listening to this talk on six sense doors and six sense bases by this Venerable Punya Mantani Putta, he became, a Sotapanna. He actually broke through to the Dhamma. So you can see from the sutta, so many of these discourses given by the Buddha, by all these Arahant disciples, all centered on what? Six sense doors and six sense bases. So if you actually read the suttas, you get a completely picture from what some meditation teachers nowadays, that you should just focus on your primary object. If you actually experience any anger, any greed, any delusion, just don't focus on it. Come back to your primary object. Then after that, just see how it comes and goes. Oh, there's anger, there's no more anger, it comes and goes, or there's actually greed, it comes, it stays, it goes. So the Buddha says, if you just look at this impermanent, it does not bring you to liberation. You must actually be able to realize the non-self anatta, because anatta is a crown jewel of the Buddha's teaching. And to realize anatta, the way is to contemplate the five aggregates, the non-self nature of five aggregates through the six sense doors, and how your mind reacts to these six sense doors, coming in contact with the six sense objects, and how you actually realize that they actually come into play through causes and conditions, and they're depending on a reason. Only then you're able to uproot your fetters. If you can see from SN 35.55, you can also read this sutta yourself, and like I mentioned, this AN 4.41, you see, like I mentioned to you just now, if you actually meditate just by looking at how, for example, anger comes and goes, I know some meditation, they actually teach, just watch only. Don't contemplate, don't think about anything, just watch only. Anger arises, anger goes. Greed arises, greed goes, goes away, and ceases, and then come back to your primary object, whether by, breathing in, breathing out, or rising and falling abdomen, so whenever, for example, when you're meditating, somebody closes the door very hard, and then you get a shock and you get very angry, why do you close the door so hard? So when this anger arises, oh, don't bother about it. First of all, come back to your, anapanasati or what. Then after that, just watch how the anger comes and goes. So if you do this, from this AN 4.41, the Buddha says that you're just developing the mindfulness and alertness only. You're actually sharpening your sampajanya only. Just the sati sampajanya, just by sharpening your mind, attention and alertness in terms of how anger comes and goes. But do you actually see how this anger arises through conditions or not? Do you see how this anger comes into play? What are the factors and the conditions that causes anger to arise? Is there something permanent? Is there an atta to this permanent to this anger or not? Or is it anatta? Do you realize non-self? You don't realize that because you're just looking at impermanent, impermanent, but you cannot see the anatta of it, So that's why in AF 4.41, the Buddha says there are these 4 types of samadhi, I will not talk about the first 2, but the third and fourth, here is where the difference is. If you just actually meditate just based on what comes and goes, then it's actually not realizing non-self. But once you actually look at how all these things arise and pass away through causes and conditions, then you see that actually there's actually non-self to all these things you experience, right? Everything that you actually experience is non-self. So that's why the Varamanandaka gave this Dhamma talk about this oil lamp, right? Because if you say that there is a self to this oil lamp, which means you're saying that the light is actually something that's permanent, That means it's there forever. It doesn't depend on conditions. Cannot be, But if you actually contemplate how it comes about through causes and conditions, then you see for yourself, you realize for yourself through direct experience that this light essentially there's non-self to it. There's no self. If the oil is exhausted, if the wick is burnt out, the fire it goes out. Where is the light? There's no light. The same goes for shadow. If the sun is covered by the clouds, and there's no more sunlight, or the tree is actually being somebody chops down the tree, then how do you get the shadow? The shadow disappears because the underlying causes and conditions actually disappear. So that's what the Buddha means by anatta. It's not something that exists independently without causes and conditions. And it's because of they exist through conditions, causes and conditions. That's why they are called non-self. They are subject to change and they are empty. They cannot exist by themselves. They are empty in nature. So that's why if you're actually able to see this, then you are able to see causes and conditions. Then you're able to see non-self. Then you become disenchanted and disillusioned. That's how you're able to let go. You don't cling anymore. You become sort of like a bit tired of this. A bit like what English called blasé. You become so tired of it. It's really nothing. I mean, what's there to be so happy about, right? What's there to be happy about going to a restaurant to eat? At the end of the day, the nice feeling you have is only because the food you eat. After that, you come back, do you think the pleasant feeling is still there or the happiness is still there? It dissipates, just like, water from a frying pan, just disappears. And you come back, you have this kids, making noise, or your family, a lot of problems, your kids not doing the homework. Immediately, your happiness goes away and it's substituted by anger, So where is this happiness that you so enjoyed so much ago in this fancy restaurant? Nothing, it's empty, just like a banana tree trunk. There's nothing, it's empty. There's nothing, really intrinsically permanent about it. So you also feel, nothing. What's there? So what if I don't go to the restaurant? I can just eat a bowl of mee sua or fried rice. I'm equally happy also, right? I also quench my hunger. So what's the point of going to a fancy restaurant? You also get a bit disenchanted. So that's how these people gain enlightenment through these 5 aggregates and 6 sense doors. It's not by just watching your breath or watching your abdomen rising, falling, watching anger come and go. It's not about that. It's actually seeing how things arise through causes and conditions through your open awareness, open meditation. And this is how the Buddha became a perfectly self-awakened Sammasambuddha, by actually looking at these 6 sense doors, 6 sense bases, and the 5 aggregates, So we must actually realize and understand that this 6 sense doors is indeed something very, very important. And this is what the Buddha has actually taught, And you see, if you actually practice 6 sense doors, you can practice anytime, It doesn't mean that you need to go to a retreat, and then apply for block leave, for 2 weeks, and sit down cross-legged, close your eyes. You can practice anytime with your eyes open, Anytime when you're doing your work, when you're in office, when you're driving, when you see a red light, suddenly, just before you cross the traffic junction, the light turns red. And then you become so angry. Why must it happen to me? Why is it that every time I cross a junction, the light becomes red? You get so angry. Then you contemplate. You come back to yourself. To a 6 sense doors. You actually contemplate, for example, how your hand is on the steering wheel, or you actually can feel the aircon. The coldness from the aircon. On the tactile sensation, how your leg, your soul is actually on the brake pad, and how your buttocks are touching the car seat, all these are actually samatha, because you bring your mind back to the 6 sense doors, and you see, for example, the traffic light, whether it's turning green or red, So all this is sati at your 6 sense doors, Then you can contemplate, why does anger arise? Oh, it's because of this interplay of causes and conditions. Or maybe at your workplace, maybe your colleague says something unpleasant about you, you get angry, So before you even lash out at them, you restrain yourself, you contemplate why you become angry, to these conditions. So this is actually when you start to learn about anatta, and you slightly let go, And it's not just about sitting cross-legged, in a meditation retreat. Of course, meditation retreat will give you you recharge your energy, because you sit down, in a very controlled environment, you actually practice anapanasati, this rising falling, you recharge yourself, or maybe you practice rising falling abdomen. It's fine, in samatha, it actually builds up, your energy, in order for you to practice this, when you go out in your daily life, it gives you that energy, that spiritual energy for you to be able to contemplate. But other than that, anytime you can practice meditation, not just sitting cross-legged, because why? The wonderful thing about what the Buddha teaches is 6 sense doors, 6 sense bases, 5 aggregates. You contemplate, how they arise through causes and conditions, how they're empty, how you should let go, how you should not cling to them. That's how, you become a Sotapanna, become a Satagami, Anagami, and Arahant, because you actually overcome all the factors, in terms of, Sakaya Datti, in terms of this Silabhata Paramasa, in terms of this doubt of the Buddha's teaching, because you experience with yourself, you know that all these are actually very true. What the Buddha taught you is very, very true, because you experience for yourself. It's not just by listening to what people say, and then you say, oh yeah, I believe the Buddha, by pure faith, not by experiential faith, but just by pure faith, that, oh, I just take it that the Buddha is fully enlightened, Of course, that is the initial faith you need to have. But if you want to become a Sotapanna with unshakable experiential faith that what the Buddha has taught is true, then you need to practice this 6 sense doors meditation, by looking at how things arise through causes and conditions, and how everything is dependently arisen, and how they're empty, they are non-self, they are actually they are a boil of suffering, nothing permanent, you can never depend on it. Everything is changes, but every day, everything is so unexpected, That's why the Buddha's that's why the Buddha says, don't actually think about the future. It's not to come, and every time things change, and when things don't get your way, also you won't get so angry, because well, things are actually, interplay through causes and conditions, and you can then never actually expect, what may happen, and you can never cling to the final outcome, Things, actually come through causes and conditions. That's what anatta, it makes you become very disenchanted, that there's nothing much to cling to it. So that's what's so wonderful about the teaching of the Buddha. If you can penetrate this, then you're able to see the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths is about the truth of suffering, and why this truth of suffering, is actually about all this aging, about birth, aging, death, coming into contact, with people who are unpleasant, things unpleasant, or being separated with things that you like, all this is what? Because of what? Because of the non-self nature of the five aggregates, That's why, all these happen, that is what it means by the first noble truth, And the second noble truth is, it arises because of what? Craving. Craving because you have this wrong perception, this vipalasa, that this first noble truth, that everything is permanent. You expect everything to be permanent, to be unchanging, When something happens, you actually lament, why does this happen to me? Why must this happen? Why must things change, Well, actually, it's because of first noble truth. That's why, the second noble truth is when you crave for it. That's why you suffer. You crave for things that to be the same, But if you understand the first noble truth, then you're able to actually understand that craving itself is a cause. And because of that, the third noble truth is by eradicate this craving. You're able to let go. Once you understand that things are actually non-self, you let go. And how do you develop this spiritual strength, this light, this sort of wisdom to actually uproot the ignorance? Is actually by this noble eightfold path, by actually practicing, all the eight factors in total, and when you're able to achieve all these the right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, and the right knowing and right deliverance, then you're able to see actually all things come and go. There's nothing much to actually cling to. It's all non-self, so nothing worth clinging to. And it's if you cling to it, then you're really foolish. So that's why the Buddha again highlights about these six sense doors and six sense bases. So the key takeaway from this Dhamma talk I want you to understand is this key six sense doors, or what we call the open awareness or open mindfulness, is the meditation that was actually practiced by the Blessed One. Where before when he was just a bodhisattva under the Bodhi tree, he was practicing this open awareness. If you can see from the Samyutta Nikaya itself, how he described, the strong evidence is there, And if you see from all the subsequent suttas given by the Buddhas and also all the eminent chief disciples of the Buddha, like Sariputta, Moggallana, Sariputta, Nandaka, all this, they gave the talks based on the six sense doors, even to Anathapindika before he passed away. Sariputta also talked about the six sense doors, So we must take heed that this is the path that Buddha has taught, and we must make sure that we must always bring our sati back to the six sense doors every day, as much as you can, and see how your mind reacts to the six sense objects with six sense doors, and try to contemplate in terms of anicca, dukkha, anatta. Don't just stop at anicca, but also go the way out, also all the way up to anatta. And there's one sutta, this Ati Yoko Pariyaya Sutta, the Buddha says, if you are able to watch your mind alone, whether there's loba, dosa, moha arise in you, and whether there's no loba, dosa, moha arise in you, and contemplate in such a way, in terms of this anicca, dukkha, anatta, then you are capable of achieving arahanthood even in this very life itself. So you can see how wonderful this Dhamma is. It's actually very wonderful and very, very beautifully taught and very interwoven by the Blessed One, that it's the Dhamma that's so beautiful in the beginning, beautiful in the middle, beautiful. And you know why it's so beautiful? Because you're able to realize non-self, and you're able to let go by through this easy way of meditation. Open awareness. It's nothing mystical about meditation. Just be aware of what you experience, six sense doors, how your mind reacts to it. Watch your mind. Is there loba, dosa, moha? From there, try to practice samatha. Calm yourself down first. Maybe practice anapanasati, or maybe rising, falling, or just dynamic samadhi, by just knowing, what you experience through your six sense doors. Once you come down, then practice vipassana, by actually contemplating anicca, dukkha, anatta. Then you become disillusioned, disenchanted. Then you let go, and then you will not actually, react and outburst in unwholesome manners. And that's when you actually cut away, with your unwholesome karma, and you don't create, fresh unwholesome karma by scolding back, or by doing something else evil and unwholesome. That's when self-restraint actually helps you, through this contemplation of six sense doors. So I just want to leave you with this message, that what the Buddha, he has given us a very, very valuable Dhamma, in terms of six sense doors. And now it's our responsibility to practice, this open awareness, and open meditation, and open mindfulness, the best we can, every day. The only challenge is how well you're able to bring your sati, your attention, your mindfulness back to the six sense doors, because we are, we tend to actually get lost in our daily lives when it comes to six sense doors. Then we get drawn away by loba dosa moha. Then we react, in unwholesome ways. Before you're even aware, it's already too late. Already damage is done. But no problem. We can always keep trying every day until we become skillful at it. Then one day, you're able to break through to the Dhamma. You become a Sotapanna, and that's when you can rejoice that I've already become a Sotapanna. I'm already a stream enterer. My life as a human being has not been in vain. I've really achieved what needs to be achieved. At the very least, as a Sotapanna, at least I become a Sotapanna. At least, I have only up to 7 lives. Then I must strive to become an Arahant. Then only then you can tell yourself, I've done what needs to be done. That's when you're totally out of samsara, and you're the happiest person in this world. So at the very least, in this life, when you're still a human being, when a human is so difficult to become a human, like we know from this parable of this turtle, in the blind sea turtle, in the sea, right? It's so difficult to get to be born as human being. So don't let it go to waste. Practice these six sense doors. Try to become a Sotapanna, and then from there, slowly, improve yourself, and progress spiritually, until you achieve arahantship, slowly, but gradually. Yeah, that's all. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Brother Loo. Thank you, Brother Loo, for sharing with us on the importance of not attaching to our six senses door, and the importance of practicing consistently, and how is it related to our anatta, anicca, and dukkha. And thank you, Brother Loo, again for sharing with us. So let's end this session with our closing puja lead by Sister Doris. So over to you, Sister Doris.
Thank you, Sister Amber. Dedicating of merits. Akka satta cabummatta deva naga mahiddika punyantang anumoditwa chiram rahantu lokasasanang ettavata ca amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva sabbe bhuta sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Dedication of merits to the departed. Idamme nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idamme nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idamme nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Aspiration. Ibina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu ya vanibbana pattiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you everyone for joining us this week. We wish everyone, all brothers and sisters, a well-rested Sunday. Do join us next week with another chanting session and enlightening online sharing. We would also like to dedicate the merits that we cultivated today to our fine brother, Brother Terrence's sister, and also Brother Hoi Chi An, which is Brother Seng Huat's friend. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, and see everyone again next week.